Okay, hi everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's a little after 4 o'clock. I am Sarah Harris and I'm with the Florida Agritourism Association. And today we have a presentation from LeiAnna Moorhead, and she is with Florida SART, she Administrator for and Emergency Coordinating Officer for the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. LeiAnna is dedicated to strengthening all hazard disaster capabilities through partnerships to support an effective and coordinated incident response for the animal and agricultural sectors in the state of Florida. So we're very excited that you could join us today. And I'm just going to go over real quickly some housekeeping. If you have any trouble with your audio, the slides are not following me. Um, just let us know. There's some troubleshooting that we can do. Um, Let me go there. And there's some troubleshooting for if you can't hear us, let us know. If you can keep your mic on mute so that there's no background noise. If you have any questions, I'll be monitoring the chat box. So just dump them in there and we'll get to LeiAnna to answer them. And pretty much everyone on here knows who we are. We're the Florida Agritourism Association, and we support agritourism operators throughout the state. And we have over 400 members. So we thank you for your support. And LeiAnna, it's all yours.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah, for those introductions. Okay, Sarah, just to confirm, can you see my screen and hear me loud and clear? Okay, excellent. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me in today's presentation. And before we begin, I want to share my gratitude with the Florida Agritourism Association for inviting me to speak with you all about hurricane preparedness and response for our animal and agricultural sectors here in Florida. So during today's presentation, I'm going to give you a background on our state's emergency response structure and our key response team, known as the Florida State Agricultural Response Team, or SART, as well as our Emergency Support Function 17, otherwise known as ESF 17 for the state. So in giving you that background, I'll also review our concept of operations as far as what we do, why we do it, and who we are. And I will then walk you through many of the resources that we have available to you as far as your partner agencies and entities in this association, and how we may assist you during emergency response and recovery, in which case many of these resources are also uh, important for your own hurricane preparedness. So without further ado, let's get started. So quick background on my shop here. I am formally employed with our Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. I am specifically housed in our Division of Animal Industry, and I report to our state veterinarian, who's currently Dr. Michael Short. And within our division, we have what's called the Emergency Programs section. And I have a small but mighty team within our section, which includes myself serving as the Emergency Programs Manager, and more functionally, the ECO, which is the Emergency Coordination Officer. And every state agency in Florida has appointed an emergency coordination officer for their ESFs. And I serve as the ECO for ESF 17, which we're going to get into here in just a little bit. I also have two direct reports to me. One position is vacant there, as you see with the smiley face, but currently Mr. Josh Wells serves as our emergency coordinator within our section. So within our department, like I said, I'm formally housed in the Division of Animal Industry. However, I have a very large reach across the department internally, across all of our divisions and offices as it relates to our collective emergency preparedness, response, mitigation, and recovery, as well as externally outside of the department to our Florida SART team and to our State Emergency Operations Center, and most importantly, our industry, our growers, our producers, all of you. I'm working behind the scenes to prepare, respond, and protect our industry like yours. Given that background on our organizational structure, I wanted to state, just like Florida Agritourism Association stated on their website, that agritourism is a combination of our state's top two industries, right? Tourism and agriculture. So with that said, we know that agriculture in Florida has a substantial annual economic impact. Currently, it's over $180 billion and growing. So we can see that this is an important industry within our state that also faces great risks from potential natural and man-made disasters, which we're going to talk a lot about today as far as hurricanes, but also, disease introduction and potentially agroterrorism. So given that, it is very important that our department set up a robust and active emergency preparedness and response to collectively and with you all address our animal and agricultural sectors, which is critical to our national security in the nation and to our state. So some things we do know, just a few fun facts before we dive in, is that our borders for the state are extremely porous, right? We are a peninsula. We have, I think, 14 major seaports, 20 commercial airports, and hundreds of smaller airport fields as well. And on average, we have more than 112 million tourists with their luggage visiting our state each year. And we have billions of tons of freight that pass through our interstate corridors, and over 11 million commercial and private cargo trucks entering the state of Florida each year. And as we know, we have more tropical storms and hurricanes hit Florida than any other state in the nation. So given that, like I said, our small but mighty team has a very important role to our department and to our industry. So let's start getting into a little bit of the nuts and bolts of what we do and really how it is organized based off of Florida's emergency response structure. So here in Florida, our Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services serves as the lead agency for ESF 17. That's Emergency Support Function 17. And basically, ESFs are functional areas within the state that each state agency reports to. So, for example, the Department of Transportation is ESF 1, and they're strictly handling all transportation infrastructure requirements for the state. ESF 17, our department, handles all animal and agricultural functions for the state. So our state currently has 20 emergency support functions, and we're going to talk today about ESF 17. We are also designated as ESF 17 in our Florida statute. That's Chapter 252, which is our State Emergency Management Act. Additionally, our 67 counties in the state of Florida are also responsible for ESF 17. Often what you'll find in the state and most other states is that the ESF structure is replicated at the state level and at the county level, as well as at the federal level. However, the ESF numbers might be a little different, but typically those functional areas like transportation, animals, and agriculture are usually replicated from county, state, to federal level. So we are directed by statute to lead ESF 17 for the state. So talking a little bit more about our mission for ESF 17, it's a very broad mission area, as I describe it. We're essentially responsible for coordinating the state's response for animal issues. So that may include livestock, companion animals, all the pets, exotic animals, which we coordinate in conjunction with our sister agency at the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, um, and as well as agricultural issues, pre-harvest to post-harvest. So that can include the food safety, as well as our packing, shipping warehouses, and vector control issues and feed issues, mosquito control issues, pest issues, things involving our plant industry, row crop, apiary, aquaculture. So it's a very broad mission area when we say we are addressing our animal and agricultural issues. So during an emergency, and in this case, what we're talking about being a hurricane, the state operates its state EOC, which is the State Emergency Operations Center located in Tallahassee, Florida. And during a hurricane, we receive orders from the governor's office to activate the state EOC, which you see here in this picture, which was during Hurricane Idalia, I believe, or that could have been Hurricane Debbie. I can't see the PowerPoint, the slide within the slide here. But all 20 of the emergency support functions, essentially all of our state agencies report to the state EOC, and we begin preparing, doing emergency protective actions, and responding to requests for resources. So when there is a hurricane en route forecasted to potentially hit the state of Florida, this is where we will activate and we'll start working those mission requests to support the state. So let's talk about that mission request process briefly. While we mention ESF 17, I think it's important to highlight Florida's emergency response structure that I've illustrated on this slide, which really shows the flow of how requests for assistance during large-scale incidents are handled within the state. So starting from the left, moving right, we see that when an emergency strikes, it is usually a local emergency first. So counties have the responsibility to respond to emergencies before state resources can come in to assist. And in Florida, each county has their own county emergency management agency. And that county emergency management agency is responsible for developing their own emergency preparedness plans, having resources in place to respond to the incident in their county. Now, if a county's resources are exhausted, or the situation is just simply beyond the capacity or sometimes the responsibility of the county, then that county can make a request for assistance from the State Emergency Operations Center. At which point the state EOC then forwards those resource requests from the county to the appropriate ESF. And that's done through a quote unquote mission request. A mission request is a request for resources. Any kind of resource you could think of, including information, can be in the form of a mission request. So that goes through to the state EOC, it's reviewed, and then it is tasked to the appropriate ESF. In this case, ESF 17, my shop will receive it at the state EOC, and our department will jump into action to start responding to those requests for assistance. And then that's where our Florida SART team really plugs into the picture to support this, because our agency simply does not have all the resources necessary to respond to our large animal agricultural industry and many of our citizens, right, who are involved in animal and agricultural practices. So let's talk a little bit more about that. And I want to give you a concept of operations, a high-level overview of our state agricultural response team, which was created in 2004 and follow up to Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. We were able to deploy our SART teams during that time as well to support other states. And essentially, our Florida SART is a response team that coordinates mission requests. It coordinates disaster response for animals and agriculture in the state of Florida. And we received funding for SART post 9/11 when we saw the landscape of Homeland Security change, right, for the nation, and began setting up response teams in every single state that addressed very specific sectors to every state. As you heard me mention in my previous slide, uh, the concern of national security to our food and agricultural sector in the state is there are many risks that our sectors are up against, all the way up to the lines of agroterrorism. So the program was initially funded off of the initiative for our Homeland Security, and we became established as a specialty response team and received federal funding from Homeland Security, primarily to support response, equipment, training, and planning to support our team. And SART essentially was organized formally as a multi-agency coordination group, otherwise known as a MAC group. I know I'm giving you lots of acronyms. This is the language that we speak and that I wish to share with you as well. And essentially, a MAC group is two parts. It's a policy guidance and a resource prioritization group. So you bring those together because it involves multiple agencies who are providing policy expertise and resource prioritization for an incident. And SART consists of over 25 partner agencies, all involving federal, state, and non-governmental organizations, private entities. Like I said, we all come together to support our preparedness and response, and we do that through a variety of means, such as utilizing each partner's personnel, volunteers, equipment, any type of tangible resource they bring to the table, we use it. They also provide technical assistance and subject matter experts to really help that policy area, right? And most importantly, we're coordinating information and communication flow as a team. And we're prioritizing response actions as such. As you saw on that previous slide, SART steps in to assist with those mission requests, right? So they're doing that through providing resources. And I'm also holding coordination calls during our activations to hear from our industry partners as far as what issues and critical and unmet needs are they hearing on the ground that they can communicate up the chain to the state so that we can step in and assist where needed to get our sectors recovered as soon as possible following an incident. This slide here shows one of our formal posters and our mission statement for SART, which is to empower Floridians through training and resource coordination to enhance all hazard disaster planning and response for animal and agricultural issues. And this a quick fact here in 2018, as the funding streams were changing from federal to potentially state, we gained statutory authority for SART in 2018, which was added to Chapter 252 of our State Emergency Management Act. And with that statutory authority, we convert it to specific state funding to operate our equipment, our training, and our preparedness activities. So here is a look as far as who SART is. And if you take a glance at this list of about our 25 or so agencies, you may see a few from the Florida Agritourism Association on here. I won't read through all of them. However, just to point out a few, we have our Florida Nursery Growers and Landscape Association, Florida Fruit and Vegetable Association, Florida Cattlemen's Association, our University of Florida through the IFAS Extension and the College of Veterinary Medicine, Florida Aquaculture, even our Florida Department of Health and Florida Farm Bureau. So you see it's a very versatile, high variety partnership that addresses that broad mission area of ESF 17 that we were talking about. So in summary, SART supports counties. It supports industry. It supports that local level up approach because we know that the county emergency management agencies must address agriculture, animal, and vector control issues within their counties. And they may not always have the resources necessary to support that farmer right down the road whose well pump is out and they need support. Or they need hay and feed for their animals because their pasture has been flooded or their feed has been damaged. They have trees down on their barn. This is where we step in as an agency and as a response team to really help fill those gaps at the county level to support our sectors best. So now I want to go into providing you examples of the resources that we have available for response and recovery, which also translates into many of the preparedness measures that your respective facilities can also be taking to prepare for this hurricane season. And to give you a glance real quick at kind of like what our operational structure looks like during a response, as far as the boots on the ground, the field force, we put together what's called incident management teams. And so I will essentially designate an incident management team for our division and other parts of our department to put boots on the ground and go out in the field and start assessing the situation, making phone calls, text messages, communications, so we could start responding immediately and putting resources in the field within an organized and efficient structure, which is an incident management team. And we're responding to those web EOC mission requests in the field. We're setting up an incident command post. We're setting up a logistical staging area. And sometimes we're setting up a donation staging area as well. And our Florida SART partners will also provide staff to support us out in the field. And they will be in the form of what's called like agency representatives who are serving on our incident management team. And operationally, we will look at what areas, what functional areas we need to set up, which you can see here at the bottom may include an animal health assessment group, a livestock support group, a veterinary support and sheltering group, and a donation and distribution group. The donation and distribution group is as far as whether or not one is set up in the field, that is entirely assessed in the area. We look at the operational status of the area as far as infrastructure damage, power restoration, feed store damage, veterinary support, damaged farms. What does the infrastructure look like in the area? The operational status as far as how quickly will they get back online and get to recovery? Where do we need to receive resources and position them within the community to directly support our most vulnerable, impacted agricultural sectors in those areas? And we work with our SART partners and through many generous organizations like the Greater Good, Walmart, Purina, so many more I cannot even name right now, to help bring in products into the state where we help set up those logistical staging areas and donation sites to distribute it. In these pictures here, you'll see our staff working late at night, arranging hay and feed that we deliver out to farmers. You'll see pet food distribution sites set up. On that bottom left corner picture, you'll see that's one of our local apiaries as well, coming to fill up tankers with water and corn syrup. That was during Hurricane Michael that just caused mass devastation in our Florida panhandle, wiped out a lot of apiaries. And there was a lot of bees that needed their pollen, their corn syrup, their food. And so that was such a really amazing first time initiative we were part of to support our apiary industry. We also have a wide range of response equipment to support our industry. So here's an example of some of the equipment within our SART team and within our department. We have livestock panel trailers that are positioned all across the state. We also have animal sheltering equipment, which comes in the form of a mare unit. Mare, not meaning horse. It actually means a mobile animal response equipment unit, which is fully stocked with animal sheltering supplies to support setting up pet-friendly shelters, which is for people and their pets, like at an evacuation shelter, as well as emergency animal shelters, whether that's like a rescue or maybe there's small ruminants in the area that, we need to set up a shelter for, like, sheep and goats, things like that. These trailers are stocked with supplies to help set those up. We also have a wide range of PPE, personal protective equipment, and decontamination equipment to address disease concerns, whether that's animal diseases, biosecurity concerns of a facility, and at worst, foreign animal diseases, which we don't typically see during hurricane response, but just all encompassing to ensure that we're taking biosecurity practices during all animal sheltering activities. This slide, you'll see I've highlighted our water hauler trailers, which are widely used during an emergency response. Each trailer can hold 525-gallon volume of water. And we deploy what's called strike teams out into the field to go support our citizens and our farmers, growers, producers with transporting water. Maybe their well pump is down because it's been damaged or there's not yet power in the area. So we come in, fill up water troughs for them. Maybe we need to provide additional water to support biosecurity and cleaning and disinfection of equipment as well. So these are very utilized containers, and something I would certainly recommend facilities to have as far as backup water resources. Additionally, we have several types of emergency response equipment to be ready in the field, like our command trailers and utility trailers, bunkhouse trailers if we need to, have folks sleeping overnight out in the field. It is an emergency and we are equipped and ready to be self-sufficient and bunk up out in the field if need be, no matter how catastrophic the storm. We also have what's called Magnum kennel panels, that picture in the middle you see, which is essentially heavy duty galvanized steel panels that are used to set up a pretty hardy animal shelter. We've also used these panels for temporary fencing for farms, areas that have been damaged, or facilities in order to contain animals and make sure we're addressing any public safety concerns from animals getting out of facilities or into the roadways. We also have animal technical rescue equipment. That bottom right photo you see there is a picture of a training taking place at our Florida Fire College in Ocala, Florida, with our fire department, sheriff's office, and urban search and rescue personnel trying to extricate a horse out of mud. And they are using that through an A-frame mechanism. So I'll proceed to the next slide. In that regard, we have 8 caches of equipment across the state of Florida to support animal technical rescue. These are deployed often during hurricane response and definitely not during hurricane response. Whether a horse or a cow, calf gets trapped in a confined space, whether there needs to be a water rescue like you see here in these photos. These were from Hurricane Irma when the river was flooding, and we worked with FWC and Florida National Guard and local veterinarians and our University of Florida College of Veterinary Medicine to safely perform a swift water rescue of these animals to dry and higher ground. All made possible through our animal technical rescue equipment and our trained teams across the state, made possible by SART. So this equipment is available to you should you have any type of animal practice or food animals at your farm that may need safe and effective extrication from a hazardous situation. We also have some new response equipment as it pertains to generators. Generator power is a critical resource for our agricultural producers and owners to have on site in order to minimize your economic impacts and losses to your production. So the state does have a limited number of generators available to support critical infrastructure facilities. Here in FDAX, we have a wide range of generators available, all the way up to large capacity being 350 kilowatts. You'll see that right picture is a sample image of a 350 kilowatt generator, which is essentially can run a very large facility, 4,000 square foot above. So whether that's, to protect your walk-in freezers and refrigerators, um, whether that's to help a commercial sized dairy farm with powering their cooling fans for the cows to ensure animal welfare. It could be to help power our aquaculture facilities. Many, pumps they're running in those facilities. It could be to, like I was saying, refrigerators to prevent food loss and certainly ensure food safety and prevent food contamination issues. So, having generators available in your facility of adequate capacity or kilowatts is critical to your emergency preparedness. And should your facility or your cooperatives that you work with not have a generator available, you may request that assistance from your local county emergency management. And if they cannot support that resource request, then that would come to the state, to ESF 17 with us, where we will look into our equipment cache to support you. As it relates to small animals, pets, right? This is a really important part of what we do in ESF 17 because emergency evacuation shelters oftentimes include tourists, visitors, and new residents who have moved to the state of Florida and may not be entirely familiar with preparing and responding to a hurricane. So these are critical populations that we consider during hurricane response. And it is a public safety issue for our state. And so we are prepared to support our counties, as the counties are also required to support this public safety issue by supporting the sheltering of pets in emergency evacuation shelters. These are often called pet-friendly shelters, which you may hear through your county officials. And a pet-friendly shelter is simply a shelter where people can go with their pets to shelter safe from the storm. And every county is required to have one. They cannot turn you away. And these shelters can fill up very quickly, and they need a lot of supplies and people to support pets for the undetermined amount of time needed, whether that's only 24 hours or maybe a couple weeks after a storm comes through an area. So we have SART partner agencies who help support this. We have our MARE units that I discussed earlier with supplies that help support that. And we have over 1,000 trained and enlisted volunteers across the state to help support these shelters. And many of these pictures you see above here from our SART partners in action. We also have the only veterinary response team in Florida through our SART partner at the University of Florida College of Veterinary Medicine. And they have over 50 veterinarians on staff as well as personnel who will deploy out into the field to set up a mobile veterinary hospital. We have used them during most catastrophic hurricanes and even some of the smaller hurricanes, I'll say, but that had a significant impact on some of our more rural, fiscally constrained areas, like Hurricane Idalia, that went through the Big Bend there in some of our more rural areas that didn't have a lot of veterinary infrastructure and food feed infrastructure for animals, or it was damaged pretty hard. And we deployed these teams out there with through our Florida SART efforts to provide veterinary care in the area. So this may be available to your respective agency if you have, food animal in the area or companion animals, livestock, equine. These veterinarians may be in the area for you as far as setting up an emergency hospital. We also have what's called our Florida Veterinary Corps, which is essentially a volunteer group of veterinarians and veterinary technicians who have enlisted and offered their services for incident response in the state of Florida. Oftentimes, we'll use the Florida Veterinary Corps members to help staff our emergency veterinary hospitals, that UF hospital in the field. We'll also use our Florida Veterinary Corps members to go out and make farm visits if need be, if they need to get a veterinarian on site because their veterinarian has been compromised for one reason or another, or the veterinary hospitals or clinics in the area are damaged or not in operation. We can work through our University of Florida and our Florida Veterinary Corps to help deploy the necessary resources to support you. And we are always looking for volunteer veterinarians and veterinary technicians to fill our veterinary corps. So we certainly look to you to help lift up messaging on this so that we can be as ready as possible no matter the response. Something we also do along the lines of public safety is we support our working canines. And made possible through our SART funding, we provide on an annual basis a canine first responder and tactical emergency care training to our canine officers and their working canines. And our working canines are very busy during a hurricane response, primarily doing urban search and rescue efforts in the area. They may, some of you may have experienced that, whether yourself or a family or a friend in your neighborhood. We are here to support our working canines in the efforts of public safety, and we're able to educate our canine handlers to be field ready. And to know how to provide that pre-hospital emergency veterinary care to their canines in the field. So this is just a nice slide I like to throw in there so you see what we're doing as well to help our official public safety law enforcement officers and urban search and rescue. And this has been made possible with SART funding, and we partner with our Florida National Guard through their multi-jurisdictional counter-drug task force training and the instruction group called K9 Medic to put on this training every year. So once the state is in the posture to begin moving into recovery after we've stabilized the area, power restoration has occurred, maybe there's points of distribution of food and water have been provided, businesses are coming back online, we're moving into recovery at that point. And this is when, after many executive orders, presidential orders have been executed, we will start to see those federal programs open up. In this case, for the constituents here, the stakeholders involved in this association, our growers, our producers, there are disaster recovery programs available to you that are typically, most of them, managed and dispersed by federal agencies like the USDA Farm Service Agency primarily, who has a variety of loan and indemnity programs to help cover the losses incurred, sustained, by the storm. And there are also state programs that open up too, such as what Commissioner Wilton Simpson has opened up to help our forestry and aquaculture industries post-storm impact. So typically, once we move into recovery, the federal government and our state will work together to now open up something a little newer that we've been doing in the last few years called farm recovery centers. And they're typically federally managed, state supported, and they usually include those federal disaster recovery programs I was talking about, as well as some of the state support programs. And this here on this slide is an example of a flyer from a farm recovery center that opened up in Suwannee County in response to last year's hurricanes. We had Hurricane Debbie in Milton come through the very same area in the Big Bend as Hurricane Idalia the year before that in 2023. So that area has been, the storms have exacerbated the recovery needs of that area in our agricultural industry. And so we found it very important to have a more focused recovery center just for our farmers. And that's what this initiative was about. And moving forward, we will see more of this, of these federally managed state supported sites. So as we are in the throes of hurricane season, and should you become impacted by a hurricane, please do look out for these recovery centers specifically for your sector, your industry, so that you can get the resources you need to help recover from the disaster. So as we are coming to the near end of the slide, I would like to share just a few additional resources to you as it relates to more of the communication side from our Florida SART. And that is first and foremost our Florida SART website, which is available at www.flsart.org. So flsart.org. And this website is a really critical information and communication bridge between our SART members and our partner agencies. And I really love this aspect of my job because this is where we can share information and provide education and outreach right to you, at your fingertips. So I encourage you to check out our website and find many, many more resources available to you. It's all strictly animal and agriculture on this website. And you could sign up to become a member on the SART website, which is completely free. Registration's easy, and you could check out many of the resources and events that we have going on. It's also a great place where we like to share information too. So I would certainly encourage you to reach out to me directly if maybe there's some information your association, your organization would also like to share to our target audience of animal and agricultural stakeholders. One specific spot on the website that I want to point out to you in respect to our conversation today is our county contacts on the SART website. Remember, I was talking a lot about how emergencies start at the local level up and how each county has an emergency management agency. You should get to know who your county emergency management agencies are. Who are some of those key contacts in your county as well, who are coordinating ESF 17 issues for you. And we have compiled that information on our website on the county contacts page. So if you just click that county contacts button on the home page, then you'll select your county on our map or on our county list. It'll take you directly to the page where you can receive the direct contact information for the county emergency management director, as well as some of those more specific contacts like who's in charge of food safety, who's in charge of vector control, mosquito control issues, who's my direct line of contact for my University of Florida IFAS extension, because they also have boots on the ground and are busy in the field supporting our producers directly. That's their backyard, right? They know the industry there. So if you need to get a hold of somebody to request assistance, please visit our SART website and go ahead and bookmark that page. And we have a newsletter as well called The Sentinel. It's our monthly newsletter of the SART website where we share important updates, all things ESF 17 related, upcoming events and trainings. And I certainly love to hear from you and to hear from our counties as we like to solicit the great things that you're doing as well to get prepared for all hazards, all emergencies. This is where we go to highlight that. And it's published on our SART website, and it's also emailed to our entire membership. And we too have a SART planning conference every other year. It's biannual and it's a statewide planning conference. I hear that your conference is coming up next week, so that's very exciting. And I wish you all the luck in that and great success and turnout. Conferences are such a wonderful forum to hold to just really bring everybody together face to face. And it's something that we find very important to our mission to bring all of our county emergency management agencies, SART partner agencies, and critical stakeholders in the room to this conference so we can discuss current events, initiatives, and how to prepare better together for our animal and agricultural sectors. So that's definitely something to check out on our website. We just wrapped up our conference this year in St. Pete Beach, Florida. So I certainly wish you all the luck in yours. And lastly, we have our ESF 17 Disaster Preparedness Guide. This guide is an all hazards preparedness guide that has been issued out to all of our counties and many of our stakeholders and SART partners that essentially is just a really good flip book and checklist for the various sectors involved in ESF 17 that you see here in bullet points. So we're giving you tips, tricks, checklist, templates on how to get prepared for hurricanes and all hazards. So whether you're a dairy or an apiary or involved in aquaculture, you need information on animal disease, biosecurity, horses, you name it, that really broad ESF 17 mission critical area. This is your go-to book for preparing. So we do have it available digitally on the SART website. You do need to register as a member to get access to it. It is free, once again. If you would like printed copies of it, I do have professional prints available that I would be happy to mail to you. So if you're interested, please reach out to me directly and I'll make sure we get that arranged and, we could talk about the quantity needed. It's a very important education and outreach publication that I am very proud of for our agency and that is highly used from private to government levels. So with that said, that wraps everything up and concludes it all. And this is my contact information if you'd like to chat offline or get a hold of me. And hopefully we'll talk more so in blue skies than gray. However, that's the reality of things. But once again, I want to extend my appreciation to the Florida Agritourism Association for inviting me to speak to you all today and educate you on who we are, what we do, and our resources available to you. And hopefully those resources may have also given you some ideas on how to prepare your facilities as well for all things hurricane. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. This was very thorough, and I know our members are going to get a lot of information out of this. Really appreciate it. Lena was wondering if you had any examples of how your team has helped a farm with hurricane prep or even a response.
Examples? Sure. So, wow, let me think. Lots of
Lots, I'm
examples.
sure.
Lots of examples. And I wish I had our division of plant industry on here as well, who works directly with our nurseries and our row crop farmers on, certain types of supplies that they could have, doing generator checklist, emergency contact checklist as well. Certain types of equipment we kind of work through with them as well, and then funding programs available for funding to help get prepared for emergencies too. Um, I wish I had more folks on to give you examples of that.
LeiAnna, it's just incredible how much you coordinate. It's almost overwhelming. There's so many aspects to this, and I think the average Floridian knows what to do to prepare for a hurricane, but for farms, it's another level. It takes a very special. There's many more considerations, is what I'm trying to say, and your background and understanding of how to coordinate with these many, many, many layers at the local level, state and federal level is pretty incredible. So we can't thank you enough for being here. I know we probably have some members that have questions, but they're being very quiet now.
Thank you, Lena.
So I think we should invite her back for a future webinar.
Absolutely.
It would be
Uh,
my it would be my pleasure. We could get more into the specifics as well. There's a lot to unpack.
Yes. Well, we will be sure to share the document you mentioned with our members, in at least the electronic version in our next newsletter.
Heather, did you have a
Excellent.
question?
I think it was about animal safety during natural disasters.
Yes, yeah. Hi, sorry. I thought I was on, but I was muted. Thank you so much for your presentation. It's absolutely great to see what kind of resources are out there and available. I think you're right. We all kind of know what to do to protect our house and like kind of the general parts of the business, but I feel like, with animals, there's the what to do and then also the public perception that kind of comes in when people that don't know anything about animals. But is there, what kind of things would you suggest, like, for a farm starting or a farm that's doing, things well, to kind of start that national disaster prep, as far as like a checklist or, things that they would need to do to kind of get on that right track?
Yeah, Heather, I would really love to point you again to our disaster preparedness guide because we include checklists within that guide according to like the type of farm. So whether that's, like a dairy farm or if it's a nursery or an apiary. We also have some stuff on our website, some resources I'll share with you all too, that we've put together for nurseries and apiaries and row crop farmers, especially given some of the more different historic storms we've had recently, like winter storms and very severe flooding. We've put together some new materials for that. So I'd love to consolidate kind of all that information for you and wrap it up in a nice email so that you guys can have some of those checklists, Heather, that you're kind of looking for. Would that be helpful?
That would be very helpful.
Absolutely. The hurricane that I'm thinking specifically, what, Hurricane Irma, where it's, up until the last minute, it's going to hit here, it's going to hit here, it's going to hit the
Yeah.
whole state, so it kind of
Yeah.
changes people's emergency strategy a little bit. And you don't think you need it until we're in the middle of a disaster. So kind of getting that information out there just so people are prepared. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And you can get access to all this just by signing up.
That's right. It's free. You register, and then once you register, that will open up the document for you.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to share this with our members.
I
Great.
think
I'm
that's
glad
great.
to hear that. And once again, if you'd like those professional prints, I have a large volume of them available. I would be happy to submit some in the mail to you as well for your distribution.
Okay. Thank you.
That would be great.
Good.
Okay, did we have any more comments? Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you again, LeiAnna. You were just so full of information. This was a great webinar. And as I told you before, I'll share it with all of our members so they have access to it. And I will send the link to you as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure meeting you all and talking to the association. Thank
I
you.
had no idea this was even a resource, so this has
Good,
been
good,
very educational for me.
good. I'm glad. I'm really glad to hear that. Good.
All right. Well, with that, I'll say thank you, and hopefully we won't need any of this for this hurricane season.
But we may. Very well. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.